professors. It's really a great privilege for all of you to come here. And today we're going to share this afternoon. And this afternoon is going to be divided into roughly two parts. First is about the exit-entry administration law and other regulations concerning your entry and stay here. The second part is going to be delivered by police officers from Ouyang police station, which concerns your life and property safety, as well as other stuff that you might need to get familiar with, so that we can all be great law-abiding foreign citizens here. And hopefully we will not see each other besides workplace, so that you can enjoy your life and we can enjoy our leisure time. So now, without further ado, let's start from the first part, the exit-entry administration legal guide. Please be reminded that after the session and the second session, there will be a brief Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you can keep them in mind or just take a small note in your clipboard phone so that you can refer to that later in the third part. Now, let's begin in the first part. This is about the exit-entry administration. This is sort of like the Immigration and Nationality Act in the United States. So in China, we have different law. It's called the exit-entry administration law, but the essence and contents are roughly the same. Now, and the first part that we might pay attention to is the difference in concerning nationality. In the United States and in certain parts of North Europe and West Europe, we may notice that states actually acknowledge dual citizenship, so that you can hold both the United States passport and maybe an Indian passport, and de facto you can have two passports and two nationalities, although officially they do not acknowledge that. But in China, officially and in practice, we all do not acknowledge dual nationality. So if an Indian person coming to our border and show us a Indian passport, he entered, and then after a little dispute, maybe he got drunk and he gets into a fight with someone else, and then he takes out a US passport saying, I'm a citizen from the United States. Now I want it. Now I want my right. I want all my consulate in the United States. No, you cannot do that, because the nationality is determined by this entry, and there will be an entry stamp sealed on your passport. This entry stamp does not only show the date and place of your entry, but also shows that this is exactly the nationality that People's Republic of China acknowledges you this time, this entry. So this will all be unified throughout your stay here this time. This is about dual nationality. There's no dual nationality in China, only single nationality is acknowledged. So what is the proof of your nationality? In another state, this is going to be a passport. It's not just an identity of yourself, but also a nationality of yourself. And this will be shown throughout your stay here. Your passport will be served as your identity as well as your nationality, and this will be in reference to the entry stamp on it. It's not that I carry a passport, so it's my citizenship. No, not necessarily that. It has to be connected with your entry stamp. And if you get a new passport through the embassy or consulate station in China, that too has to be combined together so that you will have the strength to say that I'm the citizenship of this state. So there will be a standard passport. This is an internationally recognized passport mode, which is officially acknowledged by the IOM International Organization for Migration, as well as the International Aviation Agency. So you can see, basically their structures are all the same, right? Acronyms for nationality, passport number, and this is a surname on the first line, and given name on the second line. So nationality again, birth date, sex, and date of issue and date of expiration. So below, this will also be a line for the type of visa. As you can see, most of you enter China with a private passport. If you enter China in a diplomatic or official passport, this will not be covered in this lecture. So you can also see surname and given name on the line below. Also the passport number and the date of birth, etc. But please be reminded that when we say international passport, we mean international passport officially recognized by the IOM and the International Aviation Agency. They officially recognize the validity of an international passport with electronic chip, meaning that they contain your biometric information. They contain electronic barcode that prevents fraudulent acts. But during COVID-19 crisis, you may notice that it's hard for you to get international electronic version passport in a timely manner. So we strongly suggest that if your passport is about to expire within 6 months, it's best to get in contact with your embassy or consulate immediately and get them switched and get a complete international electronic version passport with electronic chip on it. This is a complete passport. If you only get a small passport that lasts only 1 year, that is a passport manually written without electronic chip. We also recognize the validity of it improving your identity and nationality, but we, according to the regulation of National Immigration Agency, we cannot issue visa or residence permit on that passport. Meaning that if you're holding a passport without electronic devices, we can only give you temporary foreign entry permits up for 30 days. So you have to switch it every month. It's going to be quite some trouble for both you and me. So it's best for you to reissue, change, and get a new passport 6 months in advance with electronic devices, chips. Now there will be visa normally stamped in your passport. A visa is issued by a sovereign state, to a foreigner for entry, exit, and transit. So there are 3 countries that China gives preferential treatment, meaning that they don't need any visa one way, right? Like Japan, Brunei, and Singapore. That's the only 3 countries. Other countries, there have to be visa exemption agreement between both governments so that you can enter China without visa. In most circumstances, that you will require visa. And the types of visa shall be, diplomatic courtesy. These will be issued to maybe, the President of the United States, the state head, Prime Minister, things like that. And courtesy visa is going to be issued to former state head. Well, official visa may be issued to international organization staff. Last one is what we will encounter during our daily life, ordinary visa. And ordinary visa will be divided roughly into 3 categories according to the entry times that you can have. First is stay permit. When you get a stay permit, you extend your period of staying here, and visa extension is also the same. You get extension staying here, but you do not get any more entries. Second is that when you get, second is when you get visa change. When you get a change of visa, you will also get entries like single entry or multiple entries. Now the third one is residence permit, which is most of you holding currently. Residence permit is going to allow you to enter or exit China without entry limits. So there will not be limits in entry times, but it has to be obeyed according to the specific regulation and quarantine policies during COVID-19 this time. But normally, there will not be restrictions in exit-entry times, as long as you enter before the expiration date of the residence permit. And also, this can be divided into 12 categories according to the purpose of your stay here. This will be a little bit complicated, but we will only stretch out on the types that you normally see. Now see, all these alphabet is named after China's phonetic system. This is the initial of Hanyu Pinyin, the phonetic system of the first alphabet of Chinese character. C visa is for Chengwu, for international flight attendant and international train crew members and persons like that. D is for persons who are coming to China for permanent residence. Now the third one may have a lot to do with Wenzhou-Kean University researchers and professors, because you might visit China for a short period of time, like 1 month or 3 months. You're not going to get a work permit, but you can apply for an F visiting visa through the embassy or consulate stationed in your country. G visa is only issued to persons who is in transit through China. But if you are holding an international ticket en route China and you stay in China's airport within 24 hours, you don't need to get a visa. You can just get a stamp through the border inspection and then you're free to go. J1, J2 记者 is issued for journalists for their temporary visit and their permanent stay here. If you are trying to do any interviews or trying to visit someone and to write a report or things like that, you may be researchers, you may know a lot of stuff in your field, but in order for you to conduct interview, you have to have J1, J2 visas and switch them to residence permit for journalists. Otherwise, there is no way you can do interviews here in your own name. Now, the sixth type is L visa. L is for traveling here. Now, the maximum period that you can get through L visa is 30 days, and the extension shall be no longer than 30 days also. Please be noted that L visa cannot be switched to M or F. F is visiting, right? But L requires much less documents when you are applying in the embassy or consulate stationed in your country. They may only require you to provide your purpose of your places of visit and some expected expenditures. But when you're applying for F visa and the M visa, M is the seventh type. M visa is for you to do commercial activities or businesses here in China. Both F and M requires you to provide like written invitation and also other transaction proof, things like that. This will be more complicated. So L, travel visa, cannot be switched to F or M. You want to get an M visa or F visa that is relatively longer, you have to get them through the embassy or consulate directly. You cannot expect to switch the type of visa here when you already entered in China. Q1 and Q2 visa is for direct relative or family members of you, family members of a Chinese citizen or a person or foreigner with permanent residence here. So this shall include like parents and your minor and your couple, as well as parents-in-law. So they can apply for Q1 and Q2. R visa is issued for special talents who are urgently needed by China. Now, S1, S2 has a lot to do with you, because you may think, well, I have been staying in Wenzhou for such a long time. My wife really misses me, or actually I really miss my wife, so I want to invite her to come visit me. Now, this will be the type of visa that she's applying for. S1, S2 is issued to persons who are visiting here because there's a relative working or studying here, and the relative is a foreigner. So this will be the visa type for you to invite family members here. Now X1, X2 is for short study here. X2 is for short study, and X1 is going to issue for students who are trying to conduct a disciplinary study and education for a bachelor degree, etc. Now, if you are holding a residence permit for work already, and you're trying to, build more knowledge learn more stuff, then you can choose a short study program without changing the work type residence permit. Last one, Z, is what most of you get when you enter China, right? Z is for employment. And when you get a Z visa, you may switch that within 30 days after you enter China to work permit and work type residence permit. Let's take a look at the difference between the visa issued by China's embassy and the visa issued by us, by the immigration. Now you see China's embassy, this is the state badge as well as the information contained here. Please note that here is an expiry date. See, the expiry date does not mean that this visa is going to expire on this date, but it only means that you must enter China before this date. And here you see that this is, excuse me. Here you can see this is October 24th. You must enter China before this date, otherwise this visa becomes void. Now when you enter China, you can look at this entry stamp and also the date that you allow to stay here so that you can calculate the last day, the maximum day you can stay. So this is August 14th plus 90 days. This is going to be November 14th. This is the date that you have to exit China if you haven't extended the visa. If we issue you a residence permit or a new visa, the old one will be cancelled, and this is the cancel stamp. Now here, this one is issued by immigration, by us. You can see this is the type of visa extension that I just mentioned. Visa extension is just like stay permit. It does not have any entry. You see, it does not have any entry here, zero entry. So these information are not available. But we will have a date of extension, so you can stay here until May 27th, and this will be the last day you can stay in China without any extension. Now notice this is also a border inspection agency stamp. When you enter China, you have to go through the required procedures of waiting in line and getting your passport, show them to the immigration inspection officer in the border. The outlet shape here is an entry stamp with information like the date of entry and also the port of entry. Now this square one and the hexagon one. Square one here is for exit. So if you didn't know exactly when you enter China or exit China, you can refer to your passport. Just look at the shape of the seal, right? And also this hexagon one is for you to transit through China. Now regulations concerning foreigners here are basically divided into these parts. Entry, registration of accommodation, this is very important. Extension, change of visa, application, change of residence permit, and when the purpose of stay changes, also cancellation of visa, stay permit, residence permit. Also, we will mention a little bit about permanent residence, but due to the time factor, we will only talk about two major purposes for application. Now, birth and death, and last one is exit in China. There will be regulations where you are not allowed to exit China, so please pay special attention. Now, laws for reference. The first three laws are actually quite available. You can just type in the name. Maybe you can take a picture and you type in the name. You can search and find them on the internet. The fourth and fifth one, if you really require them later, I can send the electronic version to the Chinese staff so that they can show them to you. Now, this nationality law, as I mentioned, China does not acknowledge dual nationality. This is exit-entry administration law. This will be the biggest law that is approved by China's National People's Congress. Now, this one is regulation on administration of the exit-entry and foreigners. This is approved by the State Council. Now, fourth and fifth are the regulations for the Ministry of Public Security, which is our regulation in conducting our daily work. Now first about entry. just like I mentioned, without visa exemption agreement, without holding a residence permit, all foreigners are required to get an entry visa before entering China. And sometimes they may require you to give written invitations. So written invitation has to be issued by the entity or individual that you are visiting here in China, and they have to be liable for the authenticity of the contents and formats of the invitation. So both you and the inviter have legal obligation and will receive consequences and penalty if the written invitation is enforced. Here you can see a lot of cases where you might get denial for the entry of visa. First, deported, repatriated, and no entry into China period has not expired. If you break China's law, like maybe marijuana taking or little prostitution, I'm not sure. Okay, maybe, but any break or misdemeanor of China's law might lead to repatriation. And repatriation will follow a no entry into China period of 1 to 5 years. So this consequence is going to be quite severe, especially when you have projects or family members staying in China. Second is suffering from a lot of mental diseases and infectious diseases. COVID-19 is now very serious. So if your family member tested positive, there's no way you can enter China. You have to get vaccinated, have to get a negative test result for you to enter China. Now, may endanger China's national security or interests, disrupt social and public order. This will we will give you more specific detail on the second part of the lecture given by the local police officer Li. Fourth, resort to fraudulent acts. As I have just said, right? You always follow the true, authentic format and the contents. Now, 5, fail to submit relevant information. If visa issuing authorities require you to provide more, say you say you are doing business here, say you have a lecture going on, but we may need you to provide more, like invitation letter, like the specific time and period, like transactions and tax accounts, things like that. But these things have to be provided in addition, otherwise entry stamp might not be issued. Okay, and sometimes you will ask questions like why, what happened, why am I denied a visa, why am I denied an extension of residence permit? Give me a reason. You can't just say no and leave. Well, girls do this to men all the time. And there's no regulation, giving girls the right to not give a reason. They still do. But laws give us the right to not give a reason, right? This is specifically stipulated in the exit entry administration law. And this is not just China, the US does it as well. We're not for the efficiency and for the state interest, so this is, we are not required to give reasons for refusing the issuance of visa. But normally, as long as you cooperate and obey China's laws and regulation, normally there won't be a problem. So Article 71st is about, some persons may use forged, altered, or fraudulently obtained exit entry documents. This will lead to fine of RMB, like this said, 2,000 to 10,000, and you may also get detained due to this. So if you go to a public restroom, you stay there, take a dump, and you see a phone number on the door saying 办证 in Chinese, right? Saying that I can do certificate for you. And there's a phone number. So please don't try it. Because any fraudulent acts may lead to, as I said, a 1 to 5 year no entry into China period. And border inspection officers are really good at telling which is fraudulently made. Okay, now about registration for accommodation here. If you stay in domiciles like hotels, normally hotel will register your accommodation, putting in all your information, your name, passport, things like that. But it's best for you to get a receipt of accommodation by asking them, and normally hotels will provide them for you. For the sake of your safety and information protection, you may go for hotels that are relatively complete and relatively big, because they may contain more service and information protection. And now, if you stay in other places, domiciles other than hotels, say you enter China, enter Wenzhou, now you have to register accommodation within 24 hours with the public security organs in Wenzhou right now. Okay, so here it's going to be Liao Police Station. And if you stay in other places like Juninjiayuan or places else, you may go to Liming Police Station for accommodation registration. And this is not a one-time thing. Maybe you think, oh, I'm so rich, I don't want to live here anymore. So you may move to a bigger house. You also need to register the new accommodation registration with the bigger houses police station. Now, also, if you invite some foreign friends to visit in your apartment, as long as they stay overnight, they need to register in the police station first. These things are important for you, otherwise you may receive a penalty, and any penalty, even if a small warning, may be put into the record, so that this will affect your visa application and even other businesses and social affairs in your stay here. Now, the extension of visa shall be done within seven days prior to the expiration date of the visa. Extension, as I have mentioned, for instance, you are holding an L visa, a travel visa. This shall not be extended longer than the original date. If you get an entry stamp with entry visa for 6 months, there's no way we can issue a visa longer than 6 months. If it's 1 month, then we cannot issue longer than 1 month. This is going to be the regulation. And also, when you're applying for the change of visa or extension of visa, always resort to authentic reasons and entities. If no one is inviting you, resort to other purposes of stay. You can check the required documents on the embassy websites of your country. There will always be an English version, you can find it. And even if this time it's not available for you to extend it, do not resort to fraudulent act, because this will, as I say again, is going to be 1 to 5 year no entry to China. Okay. Also, the written invitation. Now that you are staying in China, it does not mean that I can issue a written invitation anytime. Maybe you are a very handsome boy, 40-year-old, staying in China. You started a company, and your pal said, "Hey, man, each additional day." Even a severe kind, or whether it's a severe kind, whether it's a minor kind, this will all be put into your personal record here. So some of you might try to, have a doctorate degree study here, maybe in the future. But if you have misdemeanor record here in China, each time you apply for study here, we can see the record, and we may decide the refusal of your entry into China next time. So this will be important for you. So illegal residence also contains, as I mentioned, the penalty for a cap of RMB 10,000 yuan fine, and also you may be detained for 15 days. If you have friends or your countrymen coming to China and their visa or residence permit has already expired, or they enter China without any passport, please do not harbor them in your apartment or your houses. It's not only that they are breaking the law, you are breaking the law also, and this will be put into your record as well. And the penalty, as you can see, is also quite serious. Now, employment is what we have been talking about here. Most of you are going to work in Kean University for quite a few years, and your job here, since you got work permit and work type residence permit, it's all complete, it's all okay. But if you're trying to do some additional work outside the school campus, it has to be related to the Kean University. Because if you start working for a language training school, that's going to be an illegal employment because the employer changes. You have to have only one employer that is on the work permit approved by relevant agency. So this will be 3 types of unlawful employment. First, work in China without obtaining work permit or work type residence permit. And second is what I have mentioned, the work beyond the scope prescribed in the work permit. Second is the third one is about foreign students, so which does not concern us this time. Now this will be unlawful employment here. This you can see the penalty is quite serious. Not only that you do not work illegally here, but also you do not introduce jobs to other persons who are not eligible. And also entities shall be not hiring illegal employment workers. Otherwise, this entity may lose the qualification to invite foreigners in the future, which may be a detrimental effect, especially if they are foreign school or foreign entity, things like that. Now, this is about permanent residence card. To see, this is a sample of permanent residence, and due to time factors, we will only mention 2 that concern your direct stay here. First is about special talents, and this will be, to be honest, a little bit hard to reach because they require you to have an outstanding achievement or a very high degree in a very pristine, universally recognized higher institutes and things like that. And this will be a profession. When you're applying for profession category of permanent residence permit, these are the minimum requirement. You have to stay, for at least 4 successive years and 3 cumulative years within 4 years, and also a good tax record. There will be position required, as you see, deputy general manager, deputy factory director, and also an associate research fellow. And also the entities or the institutes have certain requirements, as you can see here. You can take a picture if you're interested here. It's either high-tech or a government-sponsored institute, a key college or university in China, and also institute subordinate to the state council. Now, last one is about exit, as I have just mentioned. There will be some circumstances where foreigners shall not be allowed to exit China. And you can see here, if you are still holding a criminal record and you are still doing the time here, then there's no way you can exit China and run away from China's legal punishment. Now, if you're only having an unsettled civil dispute, or say a salary dispute, or you are getting into a fight with some citizens here, unless the civil cases are settled, otherwise you are not allowed to exit China also. Now, if you are the employer, you hire some group of persons, but you fail to provide them sufficient money thinking that, hey, they have done the work, I'm free to go. No, you're not free to go unless you pay them all the salary required. Now, there will also be other circumstances decided by emergency stuff or like that. For instance, during COVID-19, and we found a contact or immediate contact. We have to find the source of the virus before you can exit China, and things are the same internationally. Now, this roughly are my part concerning exit, entry, and registration law this whole session. And you can write down some questions concerning this part